All right. With great pleasure, we welcome back to the show General Jack Keane, of course, Fox News senior strategic analyst who has piloted us through this entire wartime period. General Keane, it's great to see you, sir. Thank you for coming back on. What are you thinking? What's your latest thoughts now, Senator General?
Well, I think what we're trying to get over right now is get control of the ceasefire, because as we've been reporting for several weeks, right in the Straits of Hormuz and in the area of the Gulf, the Iranians have been violating it, and that occurred just this last several days this weekend. And obviously, CENTCOM has a right to defend itself, and we have done that in shooting down drones, taking down their air defense systems, and defending against missile attacks at Kuwait at a U.S. base there as well. That's one thing. The other thing, in terms of Iranian violations have been taking place, even more significantly, are in Lebanon, Larry. There was an overall ceasefire on April the 8th, and then a specific ceasefire with a specialized terms of agreement written on April the 17th. And since April the 17th, Hezbollah has fired some 2,400 rockets and drones into northern Israel, so much so that many of the towns and villages in northern Israel are no longer inhabited. And the citizens obviously had to get out of there and evacuate because of the multiple hundreds of Israelis that have already been wounded during this time period. Israel cannot sustain that kind of an attack and expect to exist as a nation. And that's why they have been fighting back and expanding their operations in southern Lebanon here to deal with this onslaught that has been taking place. And to hear the leadership of Iran say that Israel is at fault here when they are conducting offensive operations and all Israel is doing is conducting defensive operations. The president has stepped in today to see if he can get this thing resolved. And evidently he's got an IOU from Prime Minister Netanyahu not to expand any further into taking the attack, obviously, to the Hezbollah, and the Hezbollah to shut down all attacks on Israel. We have a verbal commitment pretty much going back to what was agreed to on April the 17th, but of course Hezbollah and Iran violated that. So that is a big issue in front of us. Hopefully we can get that resolved and they will agree to, in action, what they have done in words with our president. The other thing, obviously, Larry, we're on a very serious diplomatic path here. We're trying to get the MOU agreed to, which likely has an expression, as you indicated, with the Straits of Hormuz and Iran no longer controlling it. And obviously it opens up and they have to do some demining and also clear some lanes themselves, likely as part of that agreement. Then all the other things would be negotiated over a 60-day climb clock. And the reality of that is everything that we care about, all the nuclear issues, reducing the volume and the range and lethality of ballistic missiles, which was the #1 urgency that brought us to this conflict. #2 was Iran's decision to recover its nuclear program. The same thing with drones restrictions and also restrictions on proxies. Witness what I just described is going on in Lebanon. Iran certainly wants to continue support for its proxies going forward, and this deal has got to have to stop them from doing that. The president has got his eyes wide open here in terms of what he's dealing with, and most importantly, who he is dealing with. He knows that this regime will do everything that they can, even if they agree to a deal, to try to reverse it and recover it. Because we have said many times here, Larry, we know these guys and they will cheat. And that's the reality of it. So the deal itself has to have the provisions in it to safeguard against that cheating. And we can't go back to this phony IAEA protocol that we used to have in inspections, where they go to X place and the Iranians are doing Y and Z at another place, and they have no access to it, and they're only inspecting when the Iranians say so, and they can do about an hour or so of inspection, anywhere, anytime. And believe me, the Iranians themselves, the informants of those secret sites that we bombed, It was the Iranian informants that gave us the location of those secret sites. So we know what we're dealing with. So these negotiations are going to be tough. I would add another thing to this. The Iranians, I believe, and I think you and I have spoken about this, are playing us here for time. They think the closer they can get President Trump to the midterm elections, the less likelihood that he would use military action if the deal is not satisfactory to him. I think they are miscalculating once again. And what's the evidence of that? Remember, he was in negotiations before we began the 12-day war. He gave them a 60-day clock to resolve the issues on nuclear and the other issues that we're discussing, again, in this negotiation. They refused to do that. On the 61st day, he gave Israel the green light to begin the 12-day war. President Trump knows what he can do here. He knows what he's done in devastating this regime militarily. He knows that eventually, if they don't agree, that he can break this regime and put it on a path to actual collapse. So tough negotiations coming for sure. We're going to have to roll up our sleeves and make certain all of those things in it to get what the president described as the perfect deal is actually a realistic and bona fide outcome.
Well, I think, General Keane, one key point here, and this is why I emphasize what Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary Bessent, has been saying and told me Friday in our interview. No money for Iran. Keep the embargo, keep the blockade, keep taking the cryptocurrency money away, keep taking their offshore bank accounts. We are squeezing them very badly. Now, how long they can survive that squeeze, I don't know. But it's been hurt very badly. If we're not going to use more combat operations, so-called kinetic operations, if we're not going to see the military, at least for a while, in any organized, in any sustained fashion, no money. No $12 billion of cash, no $120 billion of frozen assets. That's what Obama did years ago, and they'll take that money and start, redoing their whole nuclear program. You undoubtedly saw the reports that they're trying to reopen their missile construction under the rubble. No monies, General Keane. I think that is so essential. That's why the Bessent piece here, for the moment, is so important.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, the objection to taking a diplomatic path, from my perspective, has been it extends a lifeline to the regime. And why is that? Because of the money. If we're going to finance their recovery, then that undermines the very objectives of what we're trying to achieve here. So it's very heartening to hear Secretary Bessent make those remarks and you to relay them to our audience here who may not have picked up on it. And I suspect that one of the disagreements with the MOU, Larry, is they want money up front,
right,
as a sign of their goodwill, supposedly, right, quote unquote.
Yes.
And we don't want to give it to them. And it remains to be seen what reaction they're going to have to all of this. I believe completely we have our eyes wide open in dealing with this regime. The only thing I will say is we cannot underestimate the regime in terms of their willingness to impose economic peril and devastation on their own people.
Yeah.
It is absolutely staggering because they're operating in a completely different value system than what we are. And we always have to look at them through the evil that they really are and what they truly represent. And they're an ideologically driven regime, to be sure. And we are fundamentally opposed to that ideology. And we always have to remind ourselves of what we're actually dealing with here. And the horror that they're willing to inflict on their people is really quite staggering.
Well, one last one, General Keane. Just have a minute or so, sir. But you mentioned this last night when you were talking to my dear friend Mark Levin. The verification schedules. It has to be buttoned down. I never see that, and I don't know. It's the minutia of the negotiations and the phone calls and the memos and whatever. But, Iran has as you have said so many times, Iran has a terrible record. They lie, cheat, they steal, they're completely unreliable. There has to be button down somehow, sir, a verification schedule for all the subjects we're talking about: the actual proliferation of nuclearization, the enrichment of the uranium, the missile building, even the mining of the Hormuz Strait. All of this. How do you verify this in a way? It has to be done by Americans, it seems to me.
I totally agree with this. It concerns me if we're going to shuffle it again to the UN.
Right.
I think we've had huge problems with them in the past here. And look you're putting your finger on the real issue here, because Iran, let's assume we get the perfect deal and they sign. And that doesn't mean they're going to implement it. And the history will say they are not. After all, the reason we went back to actual combat operations after the 12-day war is what? Because our intelligence service, the Mossad and the CIA, revealed to us that they recommitted themselves to return to all of their previous goals: nuclear, ballistic missiles, drones, support for proxies. In their minds, nothing changed. Were they set back? Yes. Was their nuclear program set back? Yes. But they recommitted to it. That is likely. We have to go into the deal and get it when they sign it, understanding full well that they'll recommit to recover completely what they used to have. And that, you're absolutely right, Larry.
Paragraph by paragraph. Paragraph by paragraph.
In terms of verification.
Yes, sir. Paragraph by paragraph, line by line. And even that may not work. But anyway, General Jack Keane, thank you, sir. As always, you pilot us through this difficulty. We appreciate it. Hope to talk soon.